Welcome to Black, Red, and Blue Fancast. I'm AJ, and I'm joined by Steve today to talk about this wonderful game against Chicago Fire, which is a horrible name because they were barely even like a little spark, to be honest. They were extinguished. Yeah, exactly. So this discussion today is just going to be ever so slightly more stat heavy than we've done in the past, because we basically brought up no stats. So even if we bring up like one thing, it's basically stat heavy, right?
Yeah,
So
one stat is too heavy. I get that.
I get it.
I get
So I think that one of the best places for us to kind of start is talking about our striker, Klaus, right? We've had all this controversy this season about him. He had a very slow start, which I think some of the controversy was earned, right? But this game, there's no controversy.
Oh, no.
2 goals, some good amount of shots. Like, he had 2 goals, 1.28 XG, a total of 6 shots, right? And 3 of them were on frame.
Yeah.
That's not too shabby. And then we even were talking about earlier is that he had 2 out of 2 successful tackles. That's 100%. So not only was he contributing offensively, but he was contributing defensively as well.
Yeah, man.
How did you think Klaus did this game?
Yeah, I loved it. I was watching the game while I was leading a D&D session, so like super nerd out time. Actually, when he scored that goal, one of my players was reading a note that I created from the big bad guy, and it was like a really tense moment. He got right to the point where like the big reveal happened. It was like a scary part, and the Klaus scored that goal, and I was watching. I'm like, "Rah!" And everyone at the table fucking screamed, and they were like so scared. They were confused because it was a very scary moment, and here I was cheering, and it took them a second to kind of get their bearings together because the DM is screaming. The DM doesn't normally scream. And here I am screaming. I was like, I just saw it. And so, like, it was really great to see. I went back and I watched the highlights, and he's just on. And I think it's kind of validation for all the weird Klaus haters the first quarter of the season where it's like, get this bum out of here. And this guy's no good. And, like, he is making those Klaus kicks. I think that Klaus kick where the goal where he got from Celio was just what he did last year. It was just like he looked like he was going to trip over the ball, and it just went right in. And I like Brady as their goalie, and it's like man was hung out to dry because that team is horrible. He's a pretty good goalie, and they just were just destroyed. Yeah, and his energy on the field. Papa got his vibe back, and that's so cool to see. I loved every second watching. I love watching this man run. I love watching this man play, and I'm glad to see now we're getting out of the rut that rut that he kind of felt like he was in, and now he's 1 or 2 games away from getting his number one midfielder back, and that's going to be a huge game changer for him. Even more like we're already gelling as a team, and now we're about to bring on, as you say, our extra DP, and it's just like money, 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 money. So that's kind of how I saw. Like the vibes are there. It was so great. He almost had a perfect score and fought my player of the game, but he was on the the team of the match day. Like you can't get any better than that. It wasn't just St. Louis recognizing how great he was. He got his brace, and like the MLS is noticing it. So like that's great. It's great. What about you, man?
Yeah, I think we should also give credit where credit's due, because what have we said this entire season? We basically said that he needs to be set up. That happened. Celio absolutely decimated the Fire.
Yeah.
Absolutely they didn't have an answer for him. And that goal that you were kind of talking about from Celio, holy crap.
So beautiful.
Like, that was all him.
So beautiful.
It kind of stinks because Celio doesn't get the goal credit.
Right.
But that was all him, man. That was all him.
And like Klaus made a good point that unlike some other players on City that like to fall as soon as they get contact, Celio did not. The referee was letting this team play. Celio took contact, stood up, made a great pass, and led to that. And Klaus even pointed to him and said, like, it was all you. Like, he understood it was Celio. Like, Celio could have been the player of the game, if Kloss didn't score those 2 goals. If Kloss scores 1, Steele's probably the man of the match without question. But your number 9 is scoring 2 goals, and it's just that's it. Light him up at home, and just
Brace, your favorite word.
killed.
Brace.
Yeah, favorite word, brace. Just killed Chicago. I'm sure you've seen the photograph of Shaqiri looking like he's crying in the foreground. In the background, you got Kloss over at the. I've printed that and I've got that on my
I
door at school.
I saw that, and right away I'm like, that's meme worthy. That's so
Yep,
meme worthy.
it's just perfect. Like it's
Oh,
just, and I printed it on my door. Like I had to have it. It's just so perfect. Just seeing, you know, I don't hate this team like I hate Kansas City. I do dig the Fire. It's just a shame that they're in a rut right now. But I'm glad it happened. You know, they beat us twice last year, knocked us out of the U.S. Open Cup, then beat us at home, and now we've beaten them at home. A couple real quick stats: we're one of the only teams in the MLS who hasn't lost at home, and the Fire are one of the only MLS teams that hasn't won on the road. So we kept that streak
oh,
intact.
interesting.
So they're winless on the road, and we're undefeated at home. Draw doesn't count. We're undefeated at home. So that's pretty cool.
Now, I know CU was probably the highlight between the wings and the attacking midfielder, but Vasilev and Alm, just real quick about Vasilev. One thing, unfortunately, he didn't have the success, but he did have the 2 set pieces that he definitely gave a good ride.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was some stuff that he made a few good passes. The 3rd shot on goal, not the 3rd of the match, but we talked about 2 of Kloss's shots on a frame. The 3rd one was a pass from Vasilev. So even though he was kind of quiet and he probably flew under the radar, I felt like he actually had a pretty decent game. And then, of course, Alm, well, you know what
Ooh.
happened.
Ooh, 2 minutes in, the game barely it was so funny. They were still on Apple. They were still projecting like the referees, and they still hadn't even finished the opening. Here's what's going to happen today, and this comes in a minute and a half and scores a goal. Like just ruined their graphics. Like people are still chewing on hot dogs, and like here we go. It was amazing. It was amazing.
From downtown, too.
30 over 35 yards, I think is what I saw. Like it was nuts. It was nuts. It was so cool. And
And you were telling me
that's
something
how it
before
started.
the game. You were telling me something about before the game about one of the reasons why they take shots that far out.
Yeah, so what I heard is that one effect of teams taking those shots is you are putting the defense on point. You're not just taking those wild shots like sometimes you see Celio get the ball and it skies it, sometimes Claw skies it. Getting those shots on point deep scares the defense and it draws them out. And so you may not make those shots, but if they get close, the defense has to at least respect you. And you made the good analogy of it's the run game before the pass. Like if you're able to effectively run the ball, the defense can't just take that for granted. They have to kind of play on that. Now we're proving that we've got this guy that can bomb shots. And so next time he's running down the field, and I saw like he's like one of the fastest city players. Durkin can run fast. Alm's been like consistency clocked at over 22 miles an hour running, and he does it the entire game. He plays 90 minutes a lot, so like he's a speedster. And the next time a defense sees him running down the field and he's dribbling the ball, they have to contend with the fact that he can take a good shot. So if he doesn't take that shot, they may be opening a lane for one of the other midfielders or Kloss running in to take a good shot. So like it's a strategy to take those shots. Like it's not just a wild hair. I want to take this shot. It is let's prove a point. That's what I heard. It makes sense.
Yeah, no, man, it totally makes sense. Like football, right? Like sometimes you set the pass up with a run, sometimes you set the run up with the pass, depending on type of team. Makes
Yeah.
sense. Speaking of our team, I just want to kind of mention about how well I think we did overall otherwise. So like tackles, I saw on FOTMob that we won 73%. And it looked like it because we were getting a lot of
Oh
turnovers.
yeah.
We were intercepting. Now, surprisingly, I thought the numbers were going to be reversed, but we had 10 interceptions versus 15. But one of the differences is I think we had the interceptions at the most appropriate time. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
when you needed it, you know? Duels, we were 56%. So anytime you have a duel and you're doing better than 50%, well, that's going
Yeah.
to be heavily in your favor. You know,
Yeah.
another thing that was interesting, and a lot of this stuff I got from Tactics with Michael. He's on Twitter with at Chat City Tactics, and he gets a lot of his visuals from at MLS Stat. Really cool stuff. You guys should definitely check it out. Hopefully, I'll flash some of these graphics up on our YouTube video. But one thing I really kind of liked, and this is pretty much an element of our defense and our heavy press, is that our average first defensive action occurred 56.97 meters from our goal. That's basically at midline.
Yeah.
Chicago, on the other hand, was only 31.16. That's getting close towards their box. So that
Yeah.
actually can tell you how aggressive we played on defense. And to some extent, our success too. And I just found that kind of fascinating. So if you guys can see the graphic,
Right.
you can
Yeah. No,
kind of
I'm
see
looking
some
at
of
the
that.
graphic now where you see all these interceptions that St. Louis was using and all these challenges and the clearances. And it's like, I hope you were able to show it because, like, think of you've got this field and you got this all these little scatter shots and like St. Louis's is all over the map and or defensive like we are just doing defense all over and you look at Chicago and it's like basically their third their first 2/3 of the field and it's like they spent their entire game on defense on their own third and it's like they could not get anything going except when we first started that second half, where that's where St. Louis decides that they kind of take off the first couple of minutes of the second half, and they got their tying score, and now it's like, well, there it's kind of how we do it. That's kind of how we start the second half of the game, and then it's like lit a fire, and put their fire out. But yeah, those are pretty interesting stats. I like those as an educator, as someone that really digs data and uses data. I'm like, oh yeah, I understand kind of what these are saying. And I love that shot, the shot data screen too, where it's just like all these shots are coming out and it's just, we just took it to them. Now, also, one of the, technically one of the worst teams in the league. And it's good to get healthy against the bad teams. That's what we always hear in baseball. You get healthy against the bad teams. And it's like, let's get our mojo against this bum of a team. We got LAFC coming in, and then we got to go to Cincinnati, who, and by the way, just beat the defending champs. So, like, we've got a pretty rough next 7 days ahead of us. So, good, good to beat those beer swill drinking bozos up there.
So one thing I did notice too is that there's two graphics, one that passes into the final third and passes in the final third. And it's pretty clear that we really, really attack from the wings, that we're not going through that attacking midfielder. Now, this is where a lot of fans are going to get super excited, right? I'm going to utter this and fans are going to go crazy. Marco Royce, right?
You're going to say
Like,
the name. Oh, boy.
I
Okay.
did. Now, there's a lot of hope. I know you guys probably saw Berkey basically made an Instagram plea for him to come here, even offering him
Yes.
the captain's armband. But I'm just thinking here, like, we have a pretty decent attack on the wings. If we did get an
Yeah.
attacking midfielder, whether it's him or somebody else, it doesn't matter, right? Holy crap. Like, we're going to have a three-pronged attack. We will
Yeah.
be
Yeah. Yeah.
super
I mean,
dangerous. Super dangerous.
this Tuger guy is no joke. So like, if we don't get this
I like him too.
Reese fellow, we got this other guy that apparently is like almost a done deal instead of this rumor mill guy right now. So like, if we can land one of those guys, like
Oh,
we're proving again, the MLS is proving that this isn't a retirement league anymore, and it's not just Miami that you can go to, this beautiful coastal. It's like Lutz is such a good football manager, football director that people are going to want to come to St. Louis. That's always been kind of like our kind of chip on our shoulder where it's no one ever wants to come to St. Louis because would you rather live in New York or live in St. Louis? And it's like now these cats are seeing we've got a thing going here. And I think that's
so
cool.
here's what's cool about St. Louis, right? This is going to open up some wounds, right? we were told we were not a sports town, right? Obviously, we know people come out for the Cardinals and Blues, but we've shown that Battlehawks, we've led with attendance. City's one of the hardest tickets to get and the most expensive. We show
One of
up.
the most expensive, yeah.
And another thing I saw, check this out, UFC, right? This past, I think it was Friday or Saturday, we had attendance at the Enterprise Center for the UFC fight, 15,960. And this says it was the highest grossing United States UFC fight night of all time. This is St. Louis.
Whoa.
This isn't LA. This isn't New York. This is St. Louis, man.
Yeah, man. We are a legit
We're
sports
good
town.
sports city.
Yeah. Even when our teams are not that great, it's still like we still come out. And this is going to be an exciting period for St. Louis soccer right now. And, you know, it's only going to get better.
So, one thing I wanted to mention is expected threat. A lot of people aren't familiar with this, but let me quickly go through this. So, most people are familiar with expected goals, and that's basically where you kick the ball towards the net. That's the percentage of time that you would expect to have a goal, essentially, right? And the expected assist is basically the same kind of thing, but it's how many goals would typically come out of the assist. The problem is what about the guys who are playing the defensive midfielder or the defensive players or the people who aren't making the assist or goals? That's basically where the expected threat is. And I think this is important because it basically takes in all that into consideration. So, why is this important? Because I think this highlights how important certain players are to our attack. So, in this last game, our expected threat, our top player, I'll give you a pause for anybody who wants to guess. It was Totland. He had greater than 0.4, which is pretty high. Typically, a person might be like 0.2, 0.25, something like that. And good would be like 0.3. He was greater than 0.4.
Okay.
Amazing.
Wow.
Celio, as you probably would expect, he was about 0.4. Holy moly. And then number 3 was Durkin. He was at 0.39, somewhere in there. They were by far our top 3 players. Now, if I ask people in general, who would you say was our top players of that match on the attacking side of things? People would, of course, say Klaus and Celio, and then it would just kind of dwindle from there.
Right.
You know? But that shows us like how important Totland, a proven player, is to this offense. Yeah. And of course, Celio is a given. But even Durkin too.
Right. No, it just goes to show building a team is very important. And we're building a team full of players that understand this sport, understand like the small positioning you have to be and how to play as a team. And those stats are really, really cool, and they show how we're building. I'd be interested to know like how we were last year with this expected threat, who our highest players were, because I'm guessing it probably wasn't great towards especially the second half of the season. So okay, that's a good stat, man. Yeah.
And one thing I wanted to kind of mention is you probably have seen Steve all over Facebook lately. He's really been engaging with a lot of City fans, whether it's been lineups or polls or other thoughts. Like he's all over. And we definitely are really excited to interact with people. And if you see us at the game sometime, say hi. We'd love to meet and talk with you guys. In fact, I'm going to go with my family likely on Wednesday.
We're AJ and I have been talking about how to interact more with the world with our podcast, and one thing we thought was we want to know what fans think. So we created a poll, and AJ put it together, and we want it to be a little different than some other things we've seen, and so I shared it, and we had over a pretty good amount of people that responded to that. And what we saw was that overall this week, you fans had a pretty good impression of the team. And Steve will or AJ will show the results of that. And we had the player of the match, and we have the spoon player, which I thought was a pretty cool thing. Like, who do we think was the worst player? And really, we didn't have a consensus, and so we will see that there's none. Like, the fans overall did not think any player was the spoon or like the worst player on the field. And one thing that I noticed as I was looking through the results, that on the poll, it actually lined up with how well the team performed according to the FOTMOB stats, where our our offensive strikers were really high, our midfield was far better than half, but not perfect, and our goalkeeper was overall pretty good as well. So like, you guys did a phenomenal job understanding that poll and filling that out, and we're going to continue to post those. And we thank you for asking about those. So a couple of more interaction. I asked a question like, what do you guys want to talk about? What do you want us to ask? And Josh on Facebook said, why isn't Akil Watts starting? Why isn't he starting for City? He needs more time. And I actually thought about that, and I looked at his stats, and yes, he is registered as a Team One player, but he's been playing for City 2, and he's been registering a lot of minutes for City 2. And I was looking at the stats yesterday, and he put a lot of time in for that game yesterday. And with the fact that we've got 2 matches this week, I have a feeling that there will be some heavy rotations this week, and we are going to see Akil and most likely Kojima, who also started yesterday for City 2. They will most likely be up here on Wednesday at least playing. So, Josh wanted to know what we thought about that. Also, we'll come back later with our lineups, but Josh saw that I posted my lineup, and he was a little shocked at some of the things I said and thought that maybe a 4-4-2 would work better. And Josh, I love you, but the 4-2-3-1's working. So I think when we play the lineup game this week, let's go ahead and interact a little more with that. Let's see. And then Jeff Lyons, Jeff said, no more AZ. No more AZs, AZ bench. But I'm telling you, this man is a great super sub. Yeah, don't start this cat. Maybe don't start him for a while, but he's probably going to start either Wednesday or Saturday. He's probably going to start one of those 2 games. So kind of brace yourselves for that. Or he's going to get significant playing time. He's not going to come on in the 60. He's probably going to come on at half, like he did
You
when
know who else
Celio
is a
had
really
that
good
poor
sub?
showing. What's that?
Hebert. Hebert's actually a really good sub
Yeah.
because not only can he play a pretty darn good center back, but he also can play a wing back as well.
Yeah,
Maybe
he
he's not as
moved.
good. People are asking, well, why isn't Watts playing? I think the best players are actually out there. I know Hebert gets a lot of hate,
Right.
especially when he's on the wings, because I do think he does get hung out to dry quite a bit. He pairs really well
Yeah.
with Parker. There's no doubt. And then when he moves out to that wing, he loses that Parker pairing, and he definitely suffers.
Fobob said he had the most tackles in the match, and he had 2 in the match in the back line. So like, he was effective. He did stuff. And I know sometimes when he comes on late, it's like, oh no, here comes a loss. He was coming on, but like, he's getting his confidence, like Marcanic's gotten his confidence. That back line is solid. And Nilsson still hasn't started since he got hurt. Just wait until he's able to start too. Like, we have an extremely strong backline. Hopefully, that the success we have this year can convince Parker to come back when his contract is over. So we want our backline to do well. So we want to put the best players in there. And right now, if that's Hebert, we're playing Hebert. We want that best consistency, and we want that bonding for the team. So I'm all for it. I'm all for Team Hebert. Ugh. You know who did was pretty effective when he came on overall the other day? Sam. He didn't do a whole lot, but he was 1-on-1 for tackles. He was 2 for 2 for duels, and he only played 18 minutes because he didn't have to play that much. But
Sure.
he was 4 or 5. Oh my God, 4 or 5 accurate passes. AJ, like, the man was passing, and I don't know how far it was passing. I don't know if it was like me to my flag behind me, but like, he was effective.
It
He was
counts.
effective enough. Yeah, and he had a shot. I bet he was excited to take that shot. So it's like our team overall, like the DP, like the designated team, like it worked. But like, man, we started off this episode talking about Santa, and like, I think we can put to bed all this anti-Claus talk. Like, I think all the overreacting, I think it's been exposed now. I think people can see that we're not, we're not sitting Claus for Sam. We're not doing that anymore. This lineup works. This lineup is amazing right now, and we're not going to see the same lineup on Wednesday and Saturday. So that we may have the same lineup start on Wednesday. It's not going to start on Saturday. So we're going to be able to see some rotation. Maybe depending on what's going on in Cincinnati, maybe we sneak in a 4-4-2. Maybe we put Kloss up there with Sam, but that ain't how we're built right now. Depending on if we've got Edu and Nilsson coming back, maybe that changes some things, but I don't think so, man. I don't think so. I think it's working great. What do you think?
I agree with you. I think this is actually a perfect time to do our lineup game officially. So, the lineup game, for those not familiar, is simply for the next game coming up, just with a nondescript team, what would you do as the coach? So, Steve, you always get to go first.
Okay.
Your honor.
I famously earlier in this season was trying to tout the 4-4-2, but I can't. I just can't. I've got to go with the 4-2-3-1. It's working. It's a good shape. Actually, Carnell's in the post-game conference made some discussions about the fact that yes, we put out a lineup, but that lineup changes throughout the match. It changes on possessions. Like how the formation they have in offense is drastically different from how they look on defense. And I have been noticing that where it's like, okay, I'm trying to as a newbie, as someone who has never followed soccer, I'm trying to keep up with that shape. And I'm like, this is changing. Like something's off. And even though I wasn't sure why it was off or what made it off, I can see that. So it is fun to say like what position, what formation are you gonna run? And he's like, I don't know, whatever I feel like. Like the guys know what to do. But anyway, so I am going to stick with that 4-2-3-1 against LAFC because they give up a lot of goals. Where I discussed that right now the goal differential between both teams is even. The goal differential is +3. They've scored more goals, but they've given up more goals. And we've scored fewer goals than them, but we've also given up more goals. So like less goals. So like we're a pretty evenly squared team. So I expect this to be a good match. So I don't know, man. I'm gonna run out what we've been running out with because I want to see them start that. So Totland, Parker, Hebert, Marcanic, Durkin, Ostrak. God damn, the guy Ostrak. He is a hell of a player. Y'all are sleeping on Ostrak. Y'all are sleeping on him. The team loves him. I've been following this. The team loves this guy.
95%
Vasilev,
passing.
Pompeu, and Klaus. Yeah, he's a phenomenal player. He's a phenomenal player. So I've got the exact same lineup on Wednesday than what we've been running for the last 3 games. What about you?
I agree with you. I would keep it the same. The only thing I would consider is if Nilsson's ready to go, I would plug him in. And actually, so I'm going to change. I'm going to think about this, right? I'm going to pretend that we have to rotate some players out. Who would I put where, right? So we know that Nilsson and Parker are going to be your starters. So if we needed to rotate some players out, I would probably take out Parker and put Nilsson and Hebert as your back pairing. The one person I'm a little concerned about because he runs by far the most on the team and even between both teams is Durkin. I don't know if he's going to need a rest at this point. So the question is who would we put there? Well, there's a possibility if Leuven does come in as a substitution, I would start Durkin and then basically sub on Leuven like scheduled, like he's going to come on at either halftime or the typical 65-minute mark to kind of get some of that fitness in, but also to give Durkin a break. Just automatically know that we're going to do this, right?
Yeah,
I think if you have to rotate out some of the other players, the problem is like I don't like taking out Celio because he's too important. There's no way that Thor can do what Celio's doing. No way.
Yeah, no.
No, not even close, man.
No,
So
that's not
that's what
Thor's
I'm kind of
game, but
thinking. The only other person I could see is if there was going to be a time to start Sam on a rotating roster lineup would be here.
yeah. It'd be interesting to see. I do think that if we run this A1 team out on Wednesday, we will not see them. We will not see this whole team past the half. I'm excited to see some Kojima. I'm excited to see some Nilsson in there, some Newt V. I want my Newt V. I want him out there. Like, I want to see if we've got a pretty good lead. If this game is close, we might see our starters stay out there because this LAFC team, they're legit. They're for real. We are too. I think it's pretty clear we are too right now. So I think we're gonna approach this like as a legitimate threat. So one game at a time. That's how I see. I do think if Nilsson is ready, Nilsson comes in. Nilsson is a starter, and so I think we see Edu as a late sub on Wednesday, and he starts on Saturday. That's what I think. I think he starts on
Hopefully.
Saturday. He's slotted right back in. He wiggles back in where he is, and that's his spot, man. Yeah, I think we see him. I think we have to see him on Wednesday at home, so the crowd can give him some of that positive St. Louis ravioli energy before he goes to Cincinnati. I think we do see some of that good Edu time. Yeah, so that's what I think. One thing I want to add is that I've been pounding this drum for a little bit, and I think it's fun because Santi over on the Flyover Footy is as well. And I don't want to say that he picked up on it after me, but I think I just did. But through, I know this year has a different vibe because we didn't win 5 games to start the season. We've had 7 draws. However, let's make it very clear that through the exact same time last year, we had 19 points. We have 16 points right now. If
Hmm.
we win on Wednesday, we're exactly where we were last year. And let's just keep in the back of your mind. In May last year, we won 1 game. And midway through May last year, we lost Klaus for pretty much the whole rest of the year. And that kind of was our stalling point. We're not there. Like, we are working it out. We're getting together. We got this amazing team. The squad is so different than it was last year. And I think we've discussed the team looks better than it did last year. Like, we are a better squad. So, yes, 7 draws is weird. It's weird, but we are still kicking ass and we're pulling games out from the clutches of defeat. And it's just we're sticking there. So, yeah, we're an amazing squad. One other thing is that the MPSL team from Belleville, Etar, they play their home opener on Saturday. So if you don't have anything going on, you're in Belleville, and you've got nothing going on at like 5 p.m., go out to Althoff, and tickets are $10 and support a local team. These guys are in that pyramid, the USL pyramid, where they are trying to get to that next level. And right above the MPSL is Next Pro. And so if some of these cats, we may see them in Next Pro in the next couple of years. So we've got some American talent. We also have some talents from England. We got some guys from the Virgin Islands out there. So like we've got a pretty exciting team out here. And I may venture out there on Saturday depending on what we have. But like go support your local soccer. And like I said before, St. Louis has a team as well. And so we've got 2 MPSL teams within driving distance that, if you want to have something to do before the city match on Saturday, go see local soccer, professional soccer, and then head home and go watch City just absolutely crush Cincinnati. So those are the couple things that I've got. Oh, our social. So don't forget, you can find us on BRB Fancast. We're on YouTube, where you're going to probably watch this. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple. Now we're on Facebook. We're all over Facebook now. We're infiltrating, if you will. We're on the Twitter. We have an Instagram. We don't use it, but we're on the Instagram. So find us on Instagram and say, "Hey, use us." But you'll see AJ and I. If you don't know my face, this is me on Facebook. I'm that guy. So that's my. I also was Maze, but now I've got the nice professional BRB Fancast account, so you'll see us there. So don't forget that we want you to join us. We'll always put that out there every single episode. See us, look at us. We're just two goobers. Come talk. If you know more about soccer, which you probably do, come on, talk to us. Let us know what you think. But if you don't, if you are nervous about coming on, or you just want to yell at us, you just think we're stupid, we have a voicemail that you can call because again, we're basically boomers at this point. We still use voicemail. So our voicemail is 314-764-5130. Call and leave us a voicemail, yell at us, and we'll play it and voice your opinion. So, again, come join us. Take that poll when we send it. Play the lineup game. You are going to see our lineups on Wednesday and join us. I love our lineup. So, Josh, you shared a lineup, a 4-4-2 lineup. Share that lineup again. Let's see them. Let's see who's right. Let's see who's right. That's what I got tonight. AJ, what about you?
That's all I got, man. I'm just excited about Wednesday and Saturday. Like, there's 2 games this week.
Dude, we have 3 games in a span of 7 days. That's wild. It's wild. Like, our poor families are going to have to just put up with soccer all the time, and it's great. And it's not just us. Like, there's a full slate of games on Wednesday. There's a full slate of games on Wednesday and on Saturday. Like, it's just soccer, 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 soccer. Nom, 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 nom. I love it. I love it.
Well, go City.
Go City, Hawker City. Go good.